Good day, everybody. Meteorologist Robert Spetty here with this morning's Western Pacific and Australian weather update here. Got three separate main topics of discussion today, starting with the tropical cyclone Errol out here just off the Western Territory and south of Indonesia here. Continue watching this update if you want to continue watching on that, but click here if you want to go ahead and look at the Fukushima area, looking at some of the winds up in this region, and here for an earthquake update throughout the last 24 hours. Had a lot of various seismic activity out there, but starting off with tropical cyclone here, just south of Timor right in here, and it's very disorganized from what it was yesterday. Now, in that CAD imagery, the imagery taken from a satellite just over water, and they basically shows the reflectivity of the seas and how they're moving around and how they're interacting with the winds out here, and you're just seeing this very weak circulation here. It's actually fairly disorganized with not really a tight center of circulation in here, and it's kind of showing on the satellite imagery as where you can see this disorganization here, and it's very even hard to tell right now. You can only see centers of cumulonimbus clouds within the system and no overall centered eye wall anymore like we were seeing yesterday about this time. So overall becoming more disorganized here, drifting off towards the west above the subtropical ridge centered over Australia right in here and just south of the equatorial trough right up in this region. So you basically got these higher pressures down in here and the lower pressures right in this region here. And as I've already said before on many of my tropical updates, tropicals are mainly like water wanting to run downhill. They're always going to run to these lower areas of pressure, and that's basically going to send this off towards the west along this trough right in here in south of Indonesia. So no threat to any land on this system, and it is gradually dissipating, so really no threat overall to even shipping traffic out there at this time. But I think it still does bear watching, as it could slightly re-intensify as it drifts a little bit farther towards the west of Timor here, but it's a possibility of making up to severe tropical cyclone status or the equivalent of a typhoon status. Seems very low at this time as it's going to continue to go off here. And really the center of circulation, as I said, it's very weak near the center, and as noting in Kupang here, just looked at some of the OBS out of there. They haven't even seen any precipitation in there yet, and winds have only been out of the west-northwest, basically around 5 knots, so not very any gusty winds out in that region as well. And ending with the JTWC's warning on the system, expecting it to continue to drift off towards the west and eventually speed off towards the west-southwest on the 20th into the 21st as it gets wrapped up in some of the upper level troughs down here. So very weak system, only expecting the max out by 50, gusting up to 65 knots from JTWC here. I can really agree with that as well. Not expecting it to get above that 64 knot threshold for the severe tropical cyclone, and really definitely agree that it's not going to impact any land here. You might see some outer rain bands here in southern Timor, but really nothing too significant or nothing more than an afternoon tropical rain. But moving on, now as I've been mentioning the last couple days, you have a very deep low forming up here just north of Hokkaido with an extending trough off of that cold front right up in here, a trough of low pressure extending all the way across Okinawa and into China here just north of Taiwan. You're really seeing a lot of areas of cloudiness and precipitation on there. Now the real big story behind this is basically the circulation around this trough. Basically, as you know, cyclonic circulation or counterclockwise circulation goes around low pressures here. So we're going to start to see a northeasterly wind starting today into tomorrow as this kind of moves off towards the east here and showing some of these radiation fallout models. For example, this one showing this morning of the 17th, actually in an hour and 40 minutes here at 00 Zulu, that'd be about 0900 Japan Standard Time. You basically have that northeasterly winds wrapping around this trough out here. It's showing this area of low pressure north of Hokkaido with the extending trough going down on it. And what this is really showing you is the Fukushima potential relief from the flex part dispersion model, basically the iodine in the atmosphere. Now, what this really also is showing, and I do want to note, it's not very high, showing these levels over here. Anything, even if you get in the center of this dosage rate in here, it's really not going to be anything too far above background levels or nothing you really could get sick of, as long as you're not standing directly in front of this wind dispersion right outside of Fukushima for a great period of time. You're really not going to get too sick out of this. But just one thing to note, if you are one of those people walking around with the Geiger meters out here, you will pick up on this today, especially out here around Chiba, and not really so much out in the Kanto Plain, but you're really going to have to wait to more of a northeasterly wind, which we are expecting, for example, in 24 hours from now at 1800 Zulu, and more northeasterly wind going across much of the eastern coast of Honshu here. You really do see it stop rain at this point here. That's mainly due to geographical reasons with the Japanese Alps here, so the west coast really not going to see anything, but just basically showing that northeasterly winds coming out of Fukushima Dachi here across much of these populated areas. So there will be a slight spike starting tomorrow, but nothing too threatening. And to kind of get a final gist of what I'm talking about here with this stationary front and the low pressure developing off of that, basically basically all standing off of this anchor low off here in Hokkaido. You're going to be safe because seeing those northeasterly winds wrapping around it and southwesterly winds coming along the other side here just south of the system, which is all due to the interaction between the Westpac high and the Asiatic eye up here, two pretty strong ones, 1,022 millibars and 1,024 millibars over here. So that's really big, being the big influence of the weather here across much of even Taiwan up towards Okinawa. We're going to see the increase in cloudiness and precipitation over the next 48 hours, as already noted here, basically due to this stationary front extending across the region. But otherwise in the Western Pacific, I want to continue to watch this area convection here just south of Guam here in the east of Palau. It's seeing a lot of convection rate in here, not too much organization out of it, but nonetheless though, it's something to continue to watch. Could possibly increase precipitation here over the next several days here in the southern Philippines, but not really so much in Luzon or Manila for that matter, just basically along the southern portion here south of 10 degrees latitude as I'm expecting. We are seeing some increase in precipitation today though over Guam today as this tropical wave moves by, and really that's all it's going to be end up being is just basically a tropical wave coming from the east towards the west here. Not expecting any development out of it, but something we continue to watch for potential of localized flash flooding in some of these areas. And lastly, of this exceptionally long update today, we continue to see earthquake activity out here. All these blue boxes and the from USGS showing earthquake activity in the past 24 hours with a 5.5 just off the coast of Honshu here in the past hour here actually. Just felt it off the coast here, just off of northeast Honshu, when just a little bit of shake map on this region. Actually, if we zoom in on this map, well, no longer the past hour, but just recently, nonetheless, the 5.5 here, just east of the fault line where the major earthquake took place, the 9.0 out here. And also, we still have these ones from yesterday, the 5.8 that occurred just north of the Tokyo metropolitan area yesterday as well. Looking down into the southern hemisphere, nothing too new in Australia from yesterday. I know everybody was really surprised by the 5.2 and the 4.7 out here on Queensland coast yesterday, but this morning we did have a 5.2 in New Zealand, and then basically kind of an aftershock way off the map of where the original one took place, but I think they were related, of a 4.4 on the North Island. And lastly, I'm not really too much into reporting sites too much, but this site is fantastic. EarthquakeReport.com. It's a non-government agency site here, not-for-profit, non-government site. And basically, they got a lot of information here of all the earthquakes that have been occurring recently. And basically, just all across the world, tsunami for as well. Basically, a big section of Japan tsunami right in here. So if you're into any of that or you really want to gather some more information, I suggest checking out this site, as there's a lot of some really good stuff in here. But that is all I got for today, everybody. Thanks once again for listening. You've listened through the whole entire update. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, as usual, you can post them here on the YouTube channel or at westernpacificweather.com. You can post them there in the shout box or email me there as well. So thanks again for listening. Have a great day out there, everybody, and I'll have another update tomorrow. Bye.